Joining me now is Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jack Dale. Welcome.
Thanks.
We're here today to talk about honors
Right.
courses, which the school board recently approved to add to our high school curriculum.
Right.
Give us a little context. The board has been talking about this for a while. What were
the community as well, yeah.
And the community, absolutely. What was the reasoning behind adding these courses?
Well, I think if we put it in a big context, and you go back 5, even maybe 10 years ago, since then we've been continuing to add more advanced placement in international baccalaureate courses. Particularly advanced placement, College Board has been able to add more and more programs, and so we're a big fan of advanced placement, and kids get credit for that during the college application process. So we've been adding more and more of those. And so a couple things were occurring. One was, as we added more of those, kids reduced the demand for some honors courses that we did have. Standard was about the same, but the reduced in honors, and now AP was picking up quite a bit. And over time, more and more of that occurred, and so eventually many of our high schools stopped offering a couple of different honors courses, in particular in English and in social studies, because demand was down. Plus we were looking at AP, and so we said, well, let's just make a conscious effort to go to AP. So that occurred, and then what's happened, of course, is if people have watched the movie A Race to Nowhere, people say, gosh, you know, what are we doing to our kids? And pressure, shouldn't we back off a bit and have a little more common sense, if you will? So there's been quite an effort on the part of the community, and then the board responded to that by saying, well, let's, instead of just having only 2 options, the standard or the advanced placement, particularly in these 2 core areas of English and social studies, let's make sure at the high school level, junior and senior level in particular, have honors as an option. So if kids are taking 3 or 4 AP classes, they don't have to add a 5th one. They can kind of be a little more common sense in their workload issues. So that's kind of the philosophy behind it. Now,
I just want to make sure that everyone understands, we have honors classes at the 9th and 10th grade level in our high schools.
Yeah, and we even have some honors classes in middle school. This issue pertains really at the high school, mainly junior and senior levels, when you start taking more advanced courses and you start specializing in some other honors areas, or advanced placement areas. And so this is adding an honors 2 in English, well, actually adding 1 more in English and 2 more in social studies in the government and the U.S. history area. So the kids can have some choices as they kind of put their programs together.
Right, and that will be offered starting in September, correct?
Yeah, we've had to scramble a bit because some of our high schools had already started to do the course sign-ups. So all of the high schools have now been instructed to allow kids to sign up for these 5 courses. The other thing that we are doing is there's an interest on the part of the board also to allow kids who want to do some online courses of any online course to also schedule that during, if you will, first period where they could actually come to school late. So that's going to be woven into the scheduling for next fall as well. So some students who are with instead of having sleep deprivations issues, staying up late at night, and if they want to kind of not go to school first period and come in late, provide your own transportation, but you still have to take that class, you can do it in an online fashion. So we're going to be working through that one as well and trying to figure out how best to support kids if they want to be in an online environment, how to do so in a manner that where they're going to be successful, because online is a different world. You've got to be very self-disciplined to be successful.
Now, let's get to the bottom line. Will this cost more money?
We hope not. In fact, we aren't going to add any more in the budget. I think it'll be choices of how the high schools schedule sections. So if you have, let's say, 2 new honors sections in English, presumably those kids are not in some other course, and so you reduce the number of sections in whatever it might have been. So the net result is the staffing, we'll say, at the high school. The online issue may provide some different challenges because we have a separate online budget and online campus, and so that one's a little different. But.
And so how is the board going to track the success of adding these courses?
Yeah, what wasn't on TV was a very lengthy discussion by the board around, okay, what do we monitor? What are we trying to accomplish, and how do we monitor the effectiveness? And we have to come back with some proposals. But in essence, what I think the board is looking for is how many kids are we having in honors, AP, IB, kind of the advanced, and can we continue to help and support and nurture kids taking those, whether they choose AP or honors, at least they're taking some advanced curriculum. I think that's where they're going to fall down to, if you will, in terms of data collection. But we'll have to we have to have another full discussion with the board on exactly what data points they want to monitor, but I'm guessing that's probably the arena they'll be in.
Right, and I understand they do want to track this by subgroup as well?
Yeah, we want to look at all the different ethnic populations that we have, or at least the major ones that we report through the federal government, as well as then looking at children in poverty and special education kids as well, because you have, for example, twice exceptionally gifted kids, and so you want to make sure you aren't denying them opportunities as well.
Right.
So it could be into a fairly complex data monitoring, but we've got to get that set up, and board said come back with some proposals, you know, in the future work session here's this spring, so we can have that in place before we actually implement in the fall.
So we have a new school board in place, and I know they're going to be looking at the mission, goals, and vision of the school system. Do you see any changes coming out of that?
We'll see on that one. I think there might be some core values, core beliefs on how we respond to issues as a school system. I think the board wants to be very, I'll say, customer friendly and focused, and so if issues rise, how can we say yes? As I've said to the staff, I think we're in this era where a huge bureaucracy, but we need to behave more like an entrepreneurial organization and respond individually to kids and to parents, and I think that shift is difficult for a large bureaucracy, but I think that's what I think that's where the board wants to try and push us, and rightfully so. I think that's makes us much more customer focused, customer friendly, and that sort of thing. And tailor kind of it's beginning to tailor our programs and offerings to individual student needs and family needs, as opposed to the kind of the mass. Here's the one size fits all.
Right. Well, thank you. That's very interesting.